Welcome to this YouTube version of this week's Highland League Weekly results panel from the Press and Journal, which comes from our main Highland League Weekly show, which is available over on the Press and Journal website for subscribers. That comes complete with 2 highlights games, as well as a feature this week with Forest Mechanics coach Mark Holmes. To watch that, as I said, you need to be a Press and Journal subscriber, and you can subscribe if you prefer to the Press and Journal at the moment via our sports pack for just £1 for your first 3 months, and that will get you full access to all our sport content, including Highland League Weekly. But yes, if you're only concerned with hearing our chat, myself, Callum Law and Paul Third, about this weekend's Highland League results, you're in the right place. The first game we'll be discussing was a huge top-of-the-table clash between Brechin City and Brora Rangers. It finished 2-2. Callum, if it was marginally a better point for one of our 2 current title contenders, was it Brora Rangers?
I'm not necessarily sure I agree with that, because I think it depends on your point of view, but I think given that Brechin had Dale Robertson, Seth Patrick, Craig Tosh, Scott Logan all missing, I didn't think it was a worst outcome for them to stay. Obviously they've played a game more, but to stay 7 points in front of Brora. By the same token, Stephen Mackay said it, and I would agree, I think for the good of the title race, if you will, Brora needed to get something out of that game. I think if they'd lost, it would have been a tall order for them, although there's a long way to go, but to try and, with the way Brechin are looking to try and claw that back. And what I was saying about being a better point maybe for Brechin as well was I thought it was a really good game with the ebbs and flows and how the sort of momentum swung back and forth, and a really good advert for the Highland League. But I thought once Brora equalised for the second time, I felt watching it, if there was going to be one team that won it, I felt it would be Brora. So I just think with those sort of factors I've touched on, over the balance of play and given the players I had missing, I'd say as much as they're frustrated at being in front twice and not winning, I think you might say it was a marginally better point for Brechin than it is for Brora, because they're still in the box seat as well.
I suppose, but for you and Spark, it might have been a Brora win. Paul, though, talking about goals that actually were goals, Mark Scott, the pick of the finishes.
All 4 are good finishes in different ways, but yeah, I mean, Mark Scott's it's quality. Just to take it as well as he does, the build-up, the finish, everything is top-notch. The one thing, and it's maybe been a little bit unfair, I do think that the goalkeeper perhaps makes his mind up for him by coming out his goal. I know why he's doing it. I think most goalkeepers would have done the same thing, but he'd left the whole goal at his mercy, and he took it. Yeah.
Jordan McRae had to go off injured again, second time this season. Well, we've seen him, I think, on the cameras, with shoulder having popped out, and again, that's looking like a bit of a problem potentially for Brora going forward, isn't it?
Aye, well, I think the issue is his shoulders popped out, and I can actually, if you're speaking to Jordan, his shoulders popped out before, and he's been able to slot it back in. And well, I think a game that happened before at Fraserburgh, he played in 90 minutes, so it didn't really stop him that day. But the issue, I think, on Saturday, and what was a sort of pretty innocuous tussle with Michael Hunter, I don't think he could get his shoulder to go back in, and I think my understanding would be that long term he will probably needs an operation or something to sort of pin it in place, but given probably the potential wait for that and the recovery time, whether he gets that during this season, I don't know. I mean, the most immediate concern for Jordan and for Brora would be this weekend playing Clach in the North of Scotland Cup final, and given his sort of importance as the focal point of the attack, if he's missing, which right now you would have to think he would be, that's a big blow for Brora. However, as Steve Mackay was touching upon, I thought Shane Sutherland did a very good job in terms of sort of he pushed up a bit after Jordan went off and filled that void and linked to play well and did his bit. And But I think it was his first 90 minutes as well since he's come back for injury. So it's not like, as much as if they're without Jordan, it's obviously not good for Brora. It's not like they're short of options. They do have other good attacking players, but clearly, if Jordan's available, he will play.
Okay, well, shall we move on then to our second highlights game from the weekend, which was Lossiemouth against Wick Academy. Okay then, 3-1 in the end to the visitors Wick Academy, and a great win for them, considering they were playing with 10 men for so long.
Definitely, aye. I mean, I think if you'd told them beforehand you'll play an hour with 10 men, you'd have thought, oh no. So, and especially Grant Park, they'd lost on their last 3 visits to Grant Park as well. So I think probably when Jack Henry got sent off, Gary Manson might have been forgiven for thinking, here we go again. But they did the job well, and really, in the end, the second half, they were pretty comfortable. I mean, Kyle Henderson's obviously the star of the show with his hat-trick, and he had another 2 or 3 good chances, could have taken them on another day. But I think, like, in the first half, I thought both teams were sort of going for it and created chances, and Lossie were doing well enough. And obviously playing against the 10 men, the second half, they probably felt it was there for them to win, but I'm not really sure what happened to them, to be honest. This sort of seemed to run out of ideas a wee bit, and then once Wick got in front with Kyle Henderson's second goal, it kind of felt like that knocked the stuffing out of the coasters a wee bit. So clearly a very disappointing outcome for them, but for Wick, a great result away from home and ending that 5 games they'd had without a win in all competitions. So a thoroughly satisfactory day for them. The
biggest frustration for me, from a Lossie point of view, is it didn't look like Wick were a man down for an hour. Wick were not. It's not as if they were sitting in and trying to just absorb all that Lossiemouth could throw at them. They very much stayed on the front foot. They were the team that always looked at the bigger threat and the one going to score, as they went on to do twice. And Henderson could have had another 3 easily.
Yeah, I mean, we often have sort of debatable marginal penalty calls on Highland League Weekly highlights. The one in this game, Kyle Henderson's first goal, he scored the penalty, but I mean, I didn't think this was a very debatable penalty.
Is my chuckle giving it away? I thought it was.
It's got a roundhouse kick.
The Stonewaller of the Season award for me. So certainly the one of the top contenders. I don't know what he's thinking. He catches him a perfect volley right in the back of the knee.
Don't swing your leg in the box when you're not looking. I think is maybe the lesson from that one, perhaps. Okay.
I think Ross Gunn probably deserves the credit more than anything, because he makes sure he gets in there and gets a toe on the ball, which makes a difference. But the only, me and Thirdy was talking about this off air, the only debatable decision perhaps in that game is Jack Henry's red card, because it's one of these now where I think, and I can understand why the referee sent him off, but it feels to me anyway it's kind of right on the border between a yellow and a red, and there is a bit of force in it, but again, 5-10 years ago, probably it's a booking, but now it seems like the thresholds will be lowered slightly for that kind of challenge.
I think we agreed if you're the manager and it's your player making that challenge, you're arguing it's a yellow. If it's your player on the receiving end and you're the manager, you're arguing, get him off, ref. So,
well, Wick though, I mean, still managed to get the win. Okay, let's move on to the other games from Saturday then. I think we'll start with Bankside 7, Rothes 1, 19 goals conceded in 3 games for Rothes. Now, I mean, loads of familiar names in the score sheet for Bankside, but what are we thinking about Rothes at the moment?
They're struggling.
They're
really struggling.
I mean, they've kept 1 clean sheet all season, which was in the first day, and the 19 goals in 3 games says it all, really. Like, you can't ever really expect to get anything out of games when you're losing that amount of goals. I mean, the thing as well is they seem to be losing them in sort of like flurries. Like, if they lose one, they seem to lose another or even a second and third quite quickly, and it's just, not giving themselves a chance, and they do have the kind of likes of Ross Logan. It feels like we speak about him every week, but he is quite good going forward and causes problems but for the opposition. But when it's so easy to score against Rothes, it's leaving them a problem. I mean, it's not easy, and I mean they've been playing kind of last 3 games. Banks of Dee are, I think, up to 3rd in the league now in goal difference. Clach are going really well, and they probably met Fraserburgh on a bad day as well. They put 8 past him. But however they do it, they definitely need to find a way to tighten up, because chipping that amount of goals, don't give yourself a chance. But give credit to Banks of Dee as well on the other side of it. Another good 3 points for them. I think that's 5 games on the bounce they've won now in all competitions, so they're motoring along quite nicely. Sort of them and Inverurie are just in behind Brechin and Brora at the top of the league.
Another win for Inverurie Locos as well on Saturday. They won 4-0 against Strathspey Thistle at Strathspey. Another defeat for Strathspey. It was a Blair Smith goal and then a Nathan Mears hat-trick. Like when we see Highland League players coming straight back from holiday and playing a man of the match display. That's the spirit of the Highland League. After this game though, I was struck by Ryan Essen talking about how they're working on things in training, Strathspey, and then he doesn't feel like his players are executing what the plans they put into place in games. And I suppose that's maybe been an issue for a few Strathspey managers now, that like things maybe sometimes just kind of fall apart a bit on match day. How do you solve that puzzle though? That seems really difficult.
Keep working and hoping that the penny drops, I think. The 4th goal from Inverurie Locos kind of sums up the problem that Strathspey were having. They were trying to play out and just got themselves into all sorts of trouble and basically gift-wrapped a goal for Locos.
Well, it should hopefully be able to show you all the goals on screen, and I think all of them, I mean, Inverurie have capitalised on the chances they've had and taken advantage of mistakes and whatever else you want to say. But I think the defending for all 4, Strathspey, really, you ask a lot of questions. You said, what can Ryan Essen do? I think the biggest thing is he needs players back. First of all, they were missing James McShane, Josh Race, Paul Brindle, Stephen McDonald, Dylan Lawrence, Stephen Rennie, all these, Alan Kerr's out long term as well, all these guys at the weekend, and the need, a lot of those guys I've mentioned would start for Strathspey, and they need them back. I mean, you're on about the playing out for the back thing. Ryan Essen wants him to pass the ball and try and keep the ball because he feels they can do that. And I can understand his point in that he sort of has spoken before about if they just launch it long and try and make it a scrap, that they've tried that in the past and it hasn't worked for them, and he feels like they need to try this way that he's trying to implement. But right now, whether it's maybe players down in confidence or just needing to work on it more, I don't know, but it does need to sort of improve for Strathspey, certainly, in that, again, a bit like Rothes, in that defensive aspect. They can't keep conceding as many goals as they are, and it's a really big game at the bottom of the league on Saturday, even at this stage of the season. Rothes against Strathspey at McKessick Park, and well, we'll have cameras there, and both teams would dearly love to win that one.
Good plug. Buckie Thistle 1, Forest Mechanics 2. Good result for Forest this. For Buckie, it was 3 defeats in 8 days now. For them, goals in each half from Callum Frame and Matt Jameson. One of the visitors, Josh Peters, levelled for Buckie in the opening period, I believe. Yeah, I mean, kind of a reflection this game, perhaps, how difficult things are for Buckie at the moment, and also how well things seem to be going for Forest. I feel Forest are having a good campaign.
Forest are having a good campaign. I think they've turned the corner. Obviously, there's a long way to go and they won't be getting carried away, but just the results they've had and the way they're playing and the options in their squad they've got, especially middle to front, I think all this, looking over the season so far, all the signs are very good for Forest. And I mean, going to Victoria Park and winning just adds to that, because if you're being honest, in the last couple of seasons, not necessarily something you would have fancied them doing, but they're a different outfit this season, and I do think Stephen McDonald, the manager, needs to be, the players obviously as well, but I do think Stephen McDonald, the manager, should be given quite a lot of credit for the Forest side that you see on the pitch now, because towards the end of last season and during the summer, when maybe certain players were moving on, he was coming in for a fair degree of criticism. But if you look at the signings he's made, like Matt Jameson's done really well for them. They sort of pushed the boat out to get him. Aidan Cruikshank has done well in a lot of games this season. Kyle McLeod was suspended on Saturday, but he's done well. Jordan Alongi come in, and I thought, watching highlights for the game at the weekend, he was a real live wire. Him and Callum Frame, I thought, caused Buckie a lot of problems. And I mean, Callum Frame was one that they signed last season, and he's improved over time. He's now a really promising young player. So I think when you look at everything, that's really promising stuff for Forest, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. And I mean, even the way they sort of held firm on Saturday at the end would encourage them, because Buckie, to their credit, did get into good areas. They did create chances, but they didn't have the conviction to take them.
Buckie, this season, I know it's still early days, of course, but what are they looking to do now? I mean, I think we can accept that a title defence is over, but...
Well, a week ago I would have been sitting here thinking, well, the Cups are probably Buckie's best hope for the season, but of course they've gone and been knocked out of the Evening Express Aberdeenshire Cup at Huntly last midweek. So it's tough. I mean, I can't remember the last time Buckie lost 3 in a row. That's probably going back a few years now as well.
Don't ask us.
No.
Well, the League Cup this season, but if you're talking
okay.
sort of in the Highland League, then you are going back a few years. But you're asking about their sort of season ahead. I mean, they've still got Aberdeenshire Shield, Highland League Cup to play for, Scottish Cup as well. So, I mean, there's still like a lot to play for, and a lot going on for them this season. But it's just that league form at the minute. They've never really, even for the very start of the season, they've never really got a sort of consistent run going as we've seen them do in the past, and there's just results here and there where they're sort of falling down. But I do think as well there's a lot of chat from their supporters feeling like they haven't done sort of adequate business in the summer. But I do think it's difficult, because you come back again to Jack Murray and Max Barry moving on to the Scottish League, but to me, I don't think realistically there was anyone out there that they could go and sign that was
a like-for-like replacement.
Well, lucky to have those guys.
Players with similar attributes, but I don't think there was anybody that could come in straight away and give them exactly what those two gave them. I don't think there was ready-made replacements out there for them to go and get. So it was always going to maybe be a season of change for Buckie to a degree. And despite saying all of that, it's like maybe not so much a Brora game last Saturday, but against Huntly on Wednesday and Forest on Saturday, they did have their share of chances, but they didn't take them, which you obviously need to do. And at the other end, they're just not quite as watertight as they have been in the past, and that's the sort of fine margins of it by a wee bit.
On the subject then of chances not being taken, Nairn County 1, Fraserburgh 1. It sounded like in this game, the first hour certainly, Fraserburgh dominated. They were ahead from 24 minutes when Josh Bolton scored from 25 yards, but passed up a lot of chances by the sounds of things. Nairn then score through Matthew Wright after 62 minutes was it?
Mm-hmm.
And even afterwards, I was struck by Ross Tokley talking about how Nairn hadn't really turned up initially in the game, but they come away with a point. So it kind of feels like Nairn have got away with one, and Fraserburgh have sort of let themselves down. Should have won that game.
For me, it's a game that kind of sums up where both teams are this season. They've been so hot and cold. Fraserburgh, you watch them score goals for fun one week, throw a goal in at the back and struggle defensively the next. Nairn have kind of been the same. They'll go and really give one of the leading teams a hard afternoon, and then the next week they'll slip up in a game you don't expect. It's really hard to judge both sides for me in terms of the campaign they're having so far.
I think if Mark Cowie, Fraserburgh manager, looks at the sort of performance, I think he would have to be very happy with a lot of the attacking play, but it's the final pass or the final finish to put the ball in the net that's let them down. I mean, they had plenty of pressure and good opportunities, but probably I think the key one, just because of the timings, was Aidan Sapel had a header just over, literally like a minute before the equaliser, which totally free header, was a great chance. And then, to give Nairn credit, Matthew Wright's take and his finish for the equaliser was a really nice bit of play. And then, but even then, once the Ross Stokely sort of said he felt Nairn improved after that, but still felt, again, having seen footage for this game at Fraserburgh, in the closing stages, had a lot of pressure, but they couldn't find that breakthrough. But I think saying all that, I mean, still, Ken the Broch have been a better run again of late, and Ken they've played well in that game again, so give them credit for that. But I think for Nairn, definitely they would be the happier with the point. And if you look at the last couple of weeks, they won down at Inverurie and they've drawn against Fraserburgh when they haven't been at their best. You'd have to say it's a bad week for the wee county, really.
Yeah, another good link here. On the subject of teams, it's not been a bad week for Keith 1, Huntly 2. Huntly's derby winner in this one came deep in added time. It was a game of two halves by the sound of things. Jordan Cooper gave Keith the lead before half time, Brodie Allen, and then Lewis Crosby scoring for the Black and Golds. Lewis Crosby's goal, what was it, 93rd minute? 93? 94th minute. I don't want to say that the league's entertainers, but it's been an entertaining week to be a Huntly fan, has it not?
Oh, they're having a really good season. I mean, if you look at last season, obviously Alan Hale goes to Elgin, Colin Charlesworth comes in. There was a little dip there, and then they were showing signs of recovery again, but they've come out the traps brilliantly, and full credit to them, because when you've lost someone with the goal return that Andy Hunter gave them, they needed someone to replace that. And I mean, Angus Grant, I know he didn't score at the weekend, but he's really stepped up to the plate for them. And yeah, they'll be looking forward to the cup final next month, whoever they're going to be facing.
I think the big thing Colin Charlesworth's got as well is the sort of depth within his squad, because the changes they were able to make from Wednesday against Buckie, which on quite a soft, sort of heavy pitch, all the rain, and what was a kind of the way they played, it was quite a sort of energy sapping performance, and they were able to make 5 or 6 changes for facing Keith on the Saturday. And then even when it wasn't quite going to plan, he'd players like Angus Grant again, although he didn't score, to bring on off the bench and things like that. So I think that's a big thing, and they are riding the crest of a wave a wee bit at the minute. Huntly, I think, is 4 wins on the bounce in all competitions, and there is that feel-good factor with reaching the cup final, getting through on penalties against Wick in the Scottish Cup, all those wee things when they go for you just sort of create that positive energy. For Keith, I mean, it's maybe the same old story a wee bit in terms of they certainly had the better of the first half, but didn't increase their advantage beyond the one, and then by all accounts it sounds like a bit of a soft equaliser that they've lost. And given that the wins have been hard to come by, it might have been easy for them to sort of shut up shop and try and settle for a point as time wore down. But I think, to his credit, Craig Ewan, the manager, was wanting to go for it and try, and because I think they could appreciate that if they could have won, it would have been a big 3 points, a great win for them to get. So they maybe went for it and left themselves a wee bit open, and they've been stung, which perhaps sort of sums up how it's going for Keith at the moment a wee bit, which is unfortunate for them, because I think of what they put into that game on Saturday, if they'd come out of it with something anyway, I don't think anybody would have begrudged them that.
Okay, Clachnacurran 3, Turriff United 1, the penultimate game to discuss. Rory McLeod and John Allen exchanged goals for the sides, but Turriff were reduced to 10 men on 20 minutes after Owen Kinsella was adjudged to have not made an attempt to play the ball when he pulled down James Anderson in the penalty box. So it was also a pen, which Connor Bunce scored, and then Lewis McKenzie scored another one in the second half to extend Clach's lead. Clach now past last season's points tally, and here we are. Well, Saturday would have been, what, October 12th?
12th,
so doing not bad so far. What, fourth in the league?
Fifth in the league.
Fifth in the
But I feel like you're saying they're doing not bad. I feel like at times...
Playing it down a bit, is
I
it?
feel like at times you maybe need to remind... Although I say this tongue-in-cheek, and I hope I take it in the right spirit, but I feel like at times you maybe need to remind Connor Gethins of that, because, again, on Saturday, he was sort of bemoaning the performance that they weren't
He's a hard
better
taskmaster,
against
isn't he?
anyone, but
In many ways, he was the least happy of the two managers when you actually read it out,
Aye,
just going by how the
but
feel of the coach was.
But I can understand, because he's felt like there have been games this season where they've set a very high standard and he doesn't want them to dip below that. He's looking for that sort of level all the time, which, if you look at all the best teams over at any level really over donkey's years, they all have that sort of way about them. And I mean, Connor's a winner and he demands high standards, and it's working for Clach. But to use borrow one of the old cliches, to win when you're not at your best is a positive sign. But it's fifth in the league, past. I mean, it's mental really, or remarkable to say it, past last season's points total already. But they've done that, through in the Scottish Cup. North of Scotland Cup final to come this weekend against Brora, which that'll again get the plug in. But that'll be our main game this weekend, is that cup final, and it's poised really well, I think, because although you would make Brora the favourites, they've been there and done it umpteen times before, and they're right up at the top of the league chasing Brechin. It's not necessarily in years gone by you might have said fancy that to be maybe a reasonably comfortable afternoon for them. I don't think it'll be that at all now. Clach have a lot of good options. They're much improved defensively with Josh Meekins and Joe Mallon and things going in there, and they have a lot of good options going forward. So I think that final could be an absolute cracker, and it could be a day to remember for Clach. But coming back to this game for Turriff, I mean, their luck at the minute with various things, everything's just going against them. It's probably summed up on Saturday in that they lost Rhys McEwen in the first minute to a pulled hamstring, what chance have you got? And I think they were missing like 7 or 8 players anyway. He has to go off. Owen Kinsella gets sent off, so he's now suspended. So, that's another 2 starters out for Turriff. And then to give them credit, at 2-1 against 10 men, they've actually played really well, and they've forced Joe Mallon into a couple of saves, and they've made it difficult for Clach, and Clach certainly knew they were in a game. It wasn't like they were just, sometimes these games it can become a bit of a training session where the team with the extra man just sort of keeps the ball and not a lot happens, but that wasn't the case at all. So Turriff deserve credit for that, and I mean, they just need to keep plugging away and hope that their luck will turn. And I mean, if they show the effort they did in the application they did on Saturday, it should. The 2 wee bits of good news for them is Lucas Smith, they signed before the game from Formartine, 20-year-old centre half. He came on and did quite well by all accounts. And then Archie Gibson, who's just 17, but he's played a fair bit in midfield, I think, for them. He's signed a sort of professional contract with them now, so those are 2 sort of crumbs of comfort amid all the sort of things that are going wrong for Turriff at the minute.
Okay, one more game to discuss then, and that was Formartine United 2, Devon Vale 0. Key moment in this one came on 57 minutes when Devon Vale's Murray Essen was sent off after being deemed to have committed serious foul play with a tackle on Aaron Norris. Is that 3 red cards now, 4?
Today we've had
yeah,
plenty anyway.
Red mist weekend.
Yeah, anyway, after that red card, which Gary Wood thought should have been a yellow, Johnny Crawford netted the opener with a header just 4 minutes later, and substitute Michael Dangana came on and scored for Formartine as well. I mean, it did sound from reading Stuart Anderson's comments after the game that Formartine were in control of the game, in his opinion, before the red card, but I mean, based on the way things played out, with the goal coming just 4 minutes later, the deadlock being broken, does feel like it was an important.
I think there's no question it was important, because it probably gives Formartine that lift, and Ken Devonvale probably, it's a wee bit of kind of negative, and it's obviously harder for them playing with 10. I think from what I've heard, both sides kind of agreed that a yellow might have been sufficient. Stewart said he wasn't really expecting the red card to come out. I haven't seen the challenge, but from what I've heard, I think Aaron Norris has sort of come from Murray Essendon's like blind side, and he hasn't seen him, and I think Aaron Norris has sort of played the ball, maybe almost a wee bit like the Lossy penalty in a way, that in that he's played the ball and Murray Essendon sort of been going in or swinging to clear, and he's caught the player rather than the ball. But whether there's any grounds for a Devonvale appeal, I don't know, but being interesting to see. But certainly they won't lose any heart, I think, with that result, because again they've competed well, and as a minimum made it difficult for Formartine. But Formartine, to give them their due, they're on a right good run of form now in the league, 8 games unbeaten, 20 points out of 24 I think it is, and ticking along nicely. And Johnny Crawford can't stop scoring, 10 goals for defence already. I mean, that's if you'd said that over the whole season, you'd say that was a good return, but that's an outstanding return so far for him.
It's the season's Jack Murray.
It's just a way to say that.
Yeah.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Okay, then let's have a look at the Brechin Highland League standings as they are now. That's it then for this YouTube version of our Highland League Weekly results panel, discussing all of the Brechin Highland League results from the weekend just past. Just a reminder that the panel was taken from our main Highland League Weekly show, which is over on the Press and Journal website and available exclusively for subscribers. That show comes complete every week with 2 highlights games, as well as a feature on somebody or something to do with the Brechin Highland League. You can subscribe to the P&J Sports Pack at the moment for just £1 for your first 3 months, which I think is quite a good deal. It'll also get you access, like this Thursday, to our Highland League Weekly extra highlights from Fraserburgh against Formartine on Wednesday night, if that interests you. Or you can just keep watching just the analysis with myself, Callum and Paul on YouTube every Monday. We'll be back next Monday with the next one. In the meantime, you can follow us on social media as well as YouTube. We're on X, we're on Facebook. We also have a Highland League newsletter that will get all of the latest Highland League content from the Press and Journal directly into your email inbox. There's a link to sign up to that below this video. But yes, until we see you next, please enjoy the football, whichever games you're watching.